Episode 167, Emotional Resilience After Divorce with Suzanne Platt.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a highly trained, experienced life coach making a great impact in the lives of their clients. And together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with a coach? Here we go.
No one gets married with the belief that they will get divorced, and yet divorce is a reality for so many. No matter if you are the person who was forced into divorce or the one who wanted the divorce, there are so many emotions that come up when a couple goes through this process. Coach Suzanne Platt is on the podcast today talking about the importance of dealing with all the emotions that come up from divorce, learning how to process them, and then stepping forward into a bright future post-divorce. Suzanne wants everyone to know that there is hope and light on the other side of divorce, and you don't have to navigate the path alone. If you have gone through a divorce and are struggling, please reach out to Suzanne and let her help you navigate this path with you. We promise it will be so much better with someone like Suzanne by your side. Please enjoy this episode.
Well, everybody, welcome to another episode of the podcast. I love what I get to do, and I love to be joined, that I'm joined today by Coach Suzanne Platt. Hey, Suzanne, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. I am looking forward to sharing what you have to share today with our listeners, and I just can't wait for them to hear it. So before we get started, however, like usual, can you just introduce yourself to them?
Sure. Yes. So I was born and raised in Southern California and went to BYU, finished up college down in California at Cal State Long Beach. And then I was married and we moved to Arkansas. So lived and raised my kids in Arkansas for a long time. I lived there 25 years. So had two kids and they're both grown. And I recently, I guess it's not recent now, but I moved back to California in 2019. And so I'm here enjoying the weather. That didn't take long to get used to. Of course, today it's raining though.
Yeah,
I
I
love
mean, I would think that the difference weather-wise and culturally is very different between California and Arkansas.
Yes, it is. It is. I loved where I lived. It was a great place to raise kids and really did love it. And so I miss, aspects of it, of course. But yes, I also loved where I grew up. So I'm so happy to be back as well. So yeah, and I am a school teacher. So I teach health and PE. I've taught business classes and I'm a coach too. So it's pretty awesome.
I love it. I always just loved the health and PE teachers when I was growing up. Like they were always my favorite teacher. And I can see that you probably fall right in suit with that as well.
They were my favorite. That was my favorite class. So it's,
Oh,
yeah, definitely a great job for me.
that's awesome. Well, good for you. Aside from being a teacher, you say you shared with us that you're a coach, which is obviously why you're here. Who do you work with, and how did you decide to work with that particular
Group.
set of people? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I found coaching about, I guess, 4 years ago and through Jody Moore. And I'm sure a lot of listeners have heard of Jody Moore. And so, anyway, I had been divorced. And so I was still struggling. I'd been divorced for a while and I was still really kind of struggling with it and where I was going to go next. And I found Jody Moore and started, listening to her and joined her program. And I just thought, wow, this is incredible. And all of a sudden I realized, I didn't have to cause my own suffering and that I was doing a lot of that, which I didn't realize, of course, but and it just made a huge impact on my life. So I decided, you know what, this has helped me so much, and there's got to be other people just like myself who've been through a divorce. I was in a long-term marriage for 25 years, and so it was difficult for me. And I thought, there's got to be other people just like myself, and so I just really thought, yeah, I want to do this. So I went to coach school and just have enjoyed it ever since.
Oh, that's awesome. Your journey does sound familiar. I hear that journey frequently and myself probably included. So it's an interesting, I don't know. It's amazing what happens when your life is so impacted and the desire you feel to share that with other
Right.
people. So I think
Yes, it's
it's
so true. I think
yeah.
it's a great thing.
Well, good for you. All right. So, one of the main reasons I'm assuming that people seek help from you, as you said, you work with people who are divorced. Let me clarify this. Do you work with people who are thinking of getting divorced, or you work mostly with people who have been divorced and are seeking to move forward from that point?
Yeah, so mostly people that are either going through it
Hmm.
or have been through it is
Hmm.
what I,
Okay.
work with. So
And what are some of the main reasons? Like, I mean, I can imagine what they are, but I think it's nice for people to
to
maybe
hear,
hear and know that they're not alone. Like, what are some of the main reasons why people are seeking help?
yeah. They have experienced, well, first of all, when you go through a divorce, it really just throws you for a loop, and it's mentally, emotionally, taxing, physically taxing on you. And so you kind of go into this survival mode for, that first while, maybe a year or so. And you kind of come out of that and you're kind of wondering how do I get over all of this? How do I pass this point? And it's just a whole new world, especially, if you've had a family and you've had kids. I can remember one of my first jobs outside the home after or while I was going through my divorce. Somebody asked me what I did for fun, and I was like, "What? What do I do for fun?" Because it was family church, doing
Yeah.
all the things, being a wife and all that. And so I really didn't put myself first. And then you get divorced. And if your kids are older, mine were one was out of the house already and the other one was in high school. So you kind of are lost. You feel a
Yeah.
little bit lost in where you're at, and then you're having to deal with, the aftermath of, okay, I made it through, and now what? So that's what I get a lot of that is people that are trying to figure it out. I'm like, where do I go from here? And maybe they thought that in their mind, okay, because that divorce was such a struggle. And you're just like, okay, when this is over, it's going to be better. It's going to be better. And it is because that initial, pain point, you get through it. But then there's also the navigating from there, and you find new struggles.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times your brain goes to, I know it's going to be great on the other side. And then you're like, I'm on the other side. I'm not feeling great. So how do I do this?
I think one of the things too, maybe to remember for them, and you've probably found, is that they also have developed a new, whether they recognize or not, they've developed a new set of skills, like in just getting through the divorce. And so, there's so many, there's new things for them to navigate, but they also have some new skills and some new strength that they probably didn't have before either.
Is so true. Strengths and also some of the things that you do is really put up your defenses.
Hmm.
So trying to get those down and realize that you kind of were in a fight or flight. You're trying to protect
Yeah.
yourself. And now it's time to trust yourself
Yeah.
because you go through that period of time of, was sometimes it's like, was my life a lie? I don't know what my life was. And so, yeah, getting past those defenses is important
Yeah.
and asking for help, right? We don't like to ask for help. and we think we can do it all. And so, and also, my clientele being in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it's just a whole different world. We have different thoughts about, what life was supposed to be like.
Mhm.
This was not in the plan. I don't know anybody that goes into marriage thinking, okay, I'm going to be divorced and let's plan for that. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and I'm thinking of you, who you said you were married for 25 years, and I'm going to assume that that's probably more than you were probably married for longer in your life than you were single.
exactly.
So it's figuring it out all over again. And there's a
Exactly.
lot to unwind and to discover. But I'm glad that you kind of touched on the Latter-day Saint area there, because no, like you said, nobody really goes into marriage thinking that it's going to be anything but the rest of their life. But I think within the church, we also have some unique views that kind of probably pose a little bit more of a struggle. And I'm curious what you have found those to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in the church, we, plan not just for this life to be married to that person, we're planning for our eternity, right? So, with that, when that ends, we're left with, well, maybe, this isn't true. Maybe, so all of these thoughts about what you believed in your life come up, and people wonder. They're like, I was living the commandments, I was doing what was right, I thought this was the right thing and it didn't work out. So it really makes people feel alone, and makes people wonder,
Yeah.
is this true? So that there could be, a little bit of a faith crisis that comes in play there. And so that that comes up, not just the grief of, yes, my family, is not together anymore, but also we're a family-oriented church. So, going from having your family all together at church and then being all alone, you wonder where you fit. And so that's a struggle. And so what used to be could be, for a lot of people, it used to be a lot of joy going to church, going to the temple that we have, becomes a pain point, and people don't like pain. So they want to find their happiness a lot of times someplace else because this is really painful for them.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, yeah, that definitely comes up, and trying to navigate through that.
I have done a lot of study the last year or so on the most common way that people refer to it as stages of faith. And that can be an accurate term or not, but for most people, they in the research shows that just as we develop in our human, physically in physical development, we learn to crawl before we walk and whatever, we have those same developmental stages in our spirituality as well. And for a lot of people, it takes a big event like this, like divorce, for them to start asking some questions that they didn't necessarily ask before, which
Hmm.
can start to disrupt. And we think it's disruptive, and it is painful, and it is scary to like have those questions and question what we've always thought we've known. But it's also, if we can allow it to be a really beautiful place of something that's kind of pushing us to move into a different stage of our faith. And I just think it's so interesting, and I think important for people to recognize that when that happens, like when we start to have those questions, nothing's really gone wrong, because that in and of itself is scary, right? Like not only have they gone through the divorce, but then they're also questioning their lifelong religious beliefs. That seems really unsettling. But if we can look at it as being, well, this is also part of the process. Like
Yes,
this is something that is helping me to grow. Like there's something probably really sweet on the other side of this spiritual questioning and the spiritual journey. So I don't
exactly.
know. I just felt to throw that in there, because that's something that as I started to kind of go through this kind of spiritual shift, it was really scary. And I didn't really have anything like a divorce that propelled me through it. But I think the combination of the two would be even more
Yeah. It is
unsettling.
scary. I think
Yeah.
we're not, like you said, when you go through something big, uh, that it does cause you to question,
Yeah.
your beliefs, where at before you were in a point where you were just kind of riding along. Everything
Yeah.
was just kind of smooth. So yes, it does bring into question, where your faith is at.
Hmm.
And so it's challenging, but like you said, I mean, on the other side of it is so much growth if you
Yeah.
allow it and you just allow all of it to be okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens with a lot of my clients is that because it challenges that belief of I thought that, my family was going to be together forever. Now it's all, not the way I wanted it to be. That challenge can really, cause them to go deep, right? And cause them to want to be better and not just getting past the divorce, but in all areas of their life because it's like a rebirth, right?
Mhm.
Of okay, I'm my own person now. I'm not I don't have that same role that I had before. So it does allow you to have a different view, a different avenue that you can go down and explore. And it's actually pretty exciting
Mhm.
if you allow it and let it and you don't fight it. And I think for myself, I fought it for a long time. So I fought reality instead of actually leaning into it and being like, oh, and I think that for myself, and I'm sure a lot of other people as well, is that we think our happiness resides outside of ourselves, and we give that power away to other people and to other things versus finding it within. And so I do teach my clients to be able to learn, how to find it within and figure out what they really want and what's right for them.
Mhm. Gosh, that's something I have to, even though I know that, I have to remind myself all the time of, I think, oh, the key to happiness is outside of me. And then I have to reel it back in and be like, oh no, but it's in here. And whenever, every time I reset and remind myself, oh, it's in here, like there's just a peace that comes.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopeful to recognize that because then you're not dependent upon somebody outside of you. I
Right.
think in finding that peace though and recognizing that it isn't in with that it's within you is probably also too important to see that there is going to be grief associated with the whole process and that's okay too, right? Like grief is going to be there. Grief is part of the
Yes,
process.
absolutely. I don't think you realize that until you go through something difficult. Grief can be more than just a loss of a person, can be a loss of a lot of different things. And there are those, I'm sure most people have heard, there's that 5 stages of grief. And you go through grief and it's not linear, which is frustrating to those that want control over how life
Should I
goes.
raise my hand? Okay, okay.
Me as yeah, me as well, right? So it's not linear. And so that's the hard part about it. You might be going through, the anger part, but then you go through a depression part. And if you could just say to yourself, okay, now I'm in the anger. Oh, next is this stage. Oh, next. But no, you kind of ping pong back and forth. You ride it like a wave and realize you have to realize that it's okay to go through all of those. And it's part of that process. Grief will come up and it's sneaky, I think. That's how I like to think of grief sometimes is it's sneaky because you may feel that you're doing well and you're past, the hard parts, the, pain points that really bothered you. You've done a lot of work and then a memory pops up or some, special moment or whatever pops in and you feel this grief come over you and this sadness. And so many times we're so afraid to feel it because we're afraid we're going to go back to that dark place that was really difficult. And so it's so important to realize that no, if we just allow it to be there with us, recognize it, acknowledge it, maybe ask why it's there, what can I learn from it? those kinds of things will help us to get through that, grief, and it doesn't last quite as long. And also to remind, yourself that, oh, okay, I have been there before. I know how to do grief. I know how to pull myself out of a dark, place that I am. I'm not going to go back there to that same place that I was before.
Yeah. Well, and like anything, and this is one of the things, and I hate to keep bringing it back to the stages of faith, but we expect our stages of faith to be linear as well, and they're not. But the important thing that I've learned lately is that we we need to embrace all those different stages, the ones behind us. Like in your example, you're saying, people are afraid to go back. But the thing that they need to remember is they are a different person this time.
Mhm.
If they do go back, they're not going back to that exact same place. They're going back to some maybe same emotions, but as a different person. And
Exactly.
they will experience it differently. And it's the same thing as we go through different, stages of faith. Like, yes, we go back to some places because we need to, but we're not going back as the same person. It's different.
Hmm. And we can just honor those feelings and be
Mhm.
glad that we have the opportunity to feel all the things.
Yeah.
And I know that's hard sometimes for us, but we're not robots, right? We
No.
don't want to be. And what a beautiful thing that we can feel all the different feelings because, we can't 100% be feeling happiness all the time. We wouldn't know the difference, right? We have to have opposition. We have to have those things in our life that so we can fully more enjoy those positives, those great things in our life.
Yeah. So true. And I love that you said, when you were talking about the five stages, when you said, oh, this is anger, this is, you labeled them. And I think that
Mhm.
that's an important thing to do as well. When somebody is experiencing them, it's really helpful to actually just label, oh, yep, this is just the part where I experience
Yes,
fear, or this is just the part where I'm going to experience this, and it's okay. But I think putting words to it is extremely helpful.
it really is because, I think about so many people. One of the things I hear quite often is, I'm broken. And
Mhm.
so, again, when we use that term, that there we're making it mean we are broken, right? But we're feeling a feeling, right? We're feeling that broken feeling, but we are not, broken. We are not that. We're multidimensional. So, yeah, it's so important to name it and allow us to have the experience, like you said, of feeling broken. Yes, but I am not. That is so common, though, especially, those that go through a divorce to feel that way and that they're not worthy. No matter who you are, you can have the best mental health ever. Going through a divorce is going to throw everything out of the water that all the, how healthy you were, your self-esteem was, your self-concept, whatever, it's going to take a toll on you no matter what. And even, if you're the person that decided you wanted the divorce, it still does. It takes that because our brain wants to register that as a failure. And we don't have to think about it as a failure. We can think about it. One of the best things that helped me was to think about it as this relationship is complete. And that sentence helped me so much to realize, okay, that felt so much better in my body is that this relationship is complete. And it felt better to what my thoughts were about what Heavenly Father felt about me, because there was that worry that, I didn't try, I didn't do all the things I should have done or whatever, but to realize that, okay, I could think about it like this, that's complete and allow myself the opportunity then to move forward and to not constantly let that come up as a failure and look at it differently.
Mhm. You brought something up. You mentioned even if you are the person who has instigated the divorce, I'm sure people who instigate a divorce and people who feel like they have a divorce put upon them experience things a little bit different. But but probably the same in many ways as well. I don't know. What do you see to be different there?
Yeah, it's different for sure.
Yeah.
But they do experience the same, feelings of failure, of some resentment towards the other person because each party is looking for how did this happen? Who do I blame? What's the
Yes.
problem here? And so each one is going through their own type of grief. It's hard to recognize that when you're not the partner that doesn't want the divorce, when you are the initiator. But yeah, both parties go through that, grief and it's taken that person who does want to initiate it. They're in a different place because they've thought about it much longer than the person who's being told, "Hey, I think this is what I want to do." And so they've already in their mind decided that I want to be in a different place. I want to get happier. So they're already moving in that direction. So they're a little bit farther down the road in their own self-discovery of where they're wanting to head versus the person who hasn't thought any of those things that's going along, thinking that you're going to be together or, and I know a lot of people will be like, how can it be a surprise? It's not a surprise to many. Maybe there are total surprises, but still it's not something that they entertained enough um to want it, and mutually agree. Sometimes people do mutually agree.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's definitely different for both parties and they both experience guilt, shame, resentment, all the things that go along.
I think unfortunately people probably suffer for longer than they want to, but it almost takes them to get to that point before they actually seek help.
Hmm.
And so you probably see people when they're like desperate for some
Hmm.
help and hope in their life. What do you offer them at that phase?
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like what we've been talking about, right? Is to, first of all, just realize that they aren't alone. So, and that, we can get them to a different place than where they're at right now. And most of the time, that's just they're not happy and they want anything to feel, happier. And so we work on that and we figure out where they want to be. And I teach them, different tools to get them to that place of happiness again, to where they're feeling good about themselves, they're feeling good about their family, and not just I know we're just talking about divorce and a lot about what's happening on the inside, but there's also the kids and the family and navigating that whole thing. It's all brand new, so we talk about where they want to be there and so I offer them a lot of empathy,
Yeah.
love, of course, and then just teaching them tools to move forward. And one thing that's unique, I think, about and interesting working with LDS, people is that we do have, this belief in God, and so many times we use that against ourselves in a way because we act as though because we have that belief, we should be better and we should be over this. This shouldn't have happened because I have this belief in God. And so we try to clean that up and let people realize that, hey, this is just you living your life and this is your experience and you have some choice in that experience. And we don't need to use what we think God is, thinking about us against ourselves or that we should be anywhere that we aren't right now. I mean, we're okay right where we're at. So that's kind of some of the things that we do. I
I
work
love
with
it.
them about.
What a gift for people. And I don't think people even recognize the possibility that it's possible for them to live into that place where there is hope, where there's happiness. And And what a gift that you can offer that to them. So,
Thank you. That's awesome. And there's so much happiness on the other
yeah.
side. You don't have to, live in that suffering. You can, have an amazing life, get remarried, not get remarried, do all the things that you still, want to do and be happy. That's what we're here for, is to figure out, how to navigate through.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, before we go, do you have any practical tips that you would share with those who are moving past divorce, like some things that they could start implementing today that you would share with us?
Yeah. So yes, I do. About six practical things actually
Oh,
that you could
I
do.
love it.
So, and they seem so simple that maybe someone might say, that's not going to help me, but I'm just going to share them anyway. So, number one, of course, is get support. Ask for the help. Do not keep doing it by yourself and saying to yourself, I'm just going to pray more. I'm just going to read my scriptures more and I'm going to do it all alone. That's not helpful. So get a coach or a really good friend or a counselor, a therapist, whatever it is, get yourself some help. And so number two, give yourself space to allow for the negative emotions without judging yourself or the emotions that are coming up. And one of the things that I like to tell my clients to do, because they're like, I already feel this all the time. What do you mean? No, give yourself a time limit for those negative emotions. If you feel like that's what I'm focused on all the time. So give yourself 5 to 10 minutes a day where you just say, okay, this is that time where I'm going to feel the grief, or this is that time where I'm going to feel anger towards whatever. And you just allow it to be there and not judge it. And then that time's up and you're good to go. You just say, okay, I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to tomorrow at 10, I'm going to do it again. And it's somehow do this feeling of, oh, I know, yeah, I can feel this. It's okay, because we guilt ourselves for feeling the bad feelings.
Mhm.
So that's the second thing. Third thing is remind yourself that these emotions will not hurt you. They do not hurt us. So it's okay to feel them all. All right. The fourth thing is journal. Get what's in your head out on paper. And some people might be like, oh, I don't want to put this on paper. That's fine too. You can always, put it on an app. There's journal apps, there's all of that. But when you get all of that out of your head and onto someplace else, it frees up your space in your brain, which is so helpful to be able to get all those things out. And also, along with that, journaling number five would be to write a couple of things every day that you're grateful for, because gratitude is huge. And our brain likes to focus on the negative. And so, if we can focus more on what we're grateful for, what really is truthful here, there's a lot you have going on in your life that you can be grateful for, and get out of that same, negative spot that you might be in. And the sixth thing, but last but not least, and this goes along with what I do, is exercise. So exercise is huge, and we take it for granted. And but it does help us move through emotions, and especially high intensity exercise will help you to move through those emotions that are tough, that are in your body. And I cannot express this enough. There's a whole bunch of, other research I'm sure that I could give on that, but exercise, get out. Even if you don't do high intensity, just get out and walk and feel the fresh air. If you can't get outside, go on a treadmill, do something where you're moving that body, helping your body get those feel good hormones. And you feel better. A lot of us don't like to exercise, but afterwards we're like, wow, that was so good. Why was I even worried? Why did I even think I didn't want to do that?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, those are my six things that you could do today if you're in that spot
I love it. And
is
so
rough.
simple, like you said, like it is simple things, but I mean, we know it's the small things that make great things happen. So thank you for
Yeah,
sharing those with us today. All
no problem.
right. I need people to know where they can find you. Obviously, we'll link to it in our show notes, but can you share with them where they can contact you?
Sure. So where you can find me at is thoughtfullifecoaching.com. And just go to my website and you can get a freebie there. You can book an appointment with me. And I'd love to talk to anybody that wants to talk to me and we can move forward from there. I'm also on Instagram at TLC Thoughtful Life Coaching and on Facebook as well at Thoughtful Life Coaching. So
Awesome. Thank you. It was so great to talk with you today and so happy to hear the things that you have to share and what an important message. So thank you
thank you
for
so
sharing it with
much.
us.
Thank you, Heather. Thanks so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
And thanks again.
Yep. We'll see you all again next time. Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.